In Seijo Setagaya City, Tokyo metropolis, where 7 beautiful siblings reside, lies a luxurious manor with their servants tending to their every need. While at the dining table, Arata is currently struggling to pull a single girl. Arata is overthinking how to ask out his crush, but Shin thinks the problem, and his brother Shin is just not having it, is complete. Coming from a family this rich and powerfully made up, Shin believes Arata has an cheat code to get any girl he wants, but the vibes get interrupted quick. The rest of the squad pulls up to the table, and it's clear that the morning piece is officially. Yuka is the first to complain, because discussing romance this early in the morning is a gloomy way to start the day. So honestly, just as she accuses them of talking trash about Shin's girl, but Shin expels them out. Bertley parries the attack by teasing Yuka about her own figure, which backfires immediately. Tilted, Yuka literally yeets her dog, embarrassed and totally tells a force of her irritation at Arata so he can take the full function, and the other sisters find hilarious. They all watch the chaos and playfully roast Arata for being a low-key pervert, but just as he tries to defend his honor, her drops a bomb. She brings up a mysterious incident involving Kotono, making the atmosphere super awkward, and Arata is left scrambling to save his reputation. Kotono stays silent with a suspicious look on her face, at which point the elder Banri steps in to scold Arata's sister, but Yuka isn't done yet, and she claims it's Banri's fault. Actually, she says Banri is spoiling the MC way too much, leading to a very casual shrug from the big sister. Banri claims Arata's behavior is just a side effect of being surrounded by high-tier beauties all day, though she reminds everyone that incest is definitely not socially acceptable. So Manami tries to soften, is quick to shut that logic down. The mood by calling up, thinking he's finally getting some love. Arata moves in for a grateful hug, but Arata, a good guy, gets absolutely. Manami deletes his ribs with a swift punch, obliterated, and blames it on the fighting game They claim he's wasting his top-tier genes, but they still make sure to remind him about their big group been grinding. Meanwhile, the others continue to roast his personality. Outing this Kotono seems worried he might ghost them, but Arata promises he'll be there for the squad today. Fast forward to the train station, where the 5 sisters are and the rumors causing a distraction just by existing are already flying. Sister has her own fan club, but the brothers are also pulling. Word on the street is that every single a massive amount. Girls are swooning over their looks, amount of attention, while they're all envying Arata's muscular build, which leads the boys are jealous. Leads to a private talk. Arata and Shin take a quick bathroom detour, whereas the fame is weird. Arata admits is that they lose. Outsiders think they're living a harem anime dream, but the reality, every single argument to their sisters' perspectives are, especially since Shin reflects on how skewed each sister is actually. Banri is at a prestigious uni, her is a literal genius, and Yuka is a competitive beast, but to Arata, they're just annoying siblings. He doesn't see their charms at all, but Shin reminds him of the time Kotono actually confessed her feelings to him, really a high-tier prodigy. Arata hit her with the sibling's own rejection rent-free in his head immediately, but the memory is still livid. Shin notices the change in energy and remembers another one of Arata's failed confession attempts, leading to a very frustrated evening. Arata is now in bed scrolling through Rara's social media, paralyzed by the fear of being rejected. Suddenly, Arata spots his actual crush, Rara, passing by the window, and his focus shifts completely as his heart starts racing. Again, if he sends a friend request. Just as he's about to log off, Yuka barges into his room to borrow notes, and she's shocked by how neat his writing is. Genuinely shocked, Arata is distracted by her revealing outfit, but Yuka brushes it off because close since they were twins. As they've been, she presses him about his crush until he finally admits he likes Raka is ready to play matchmaker. And she pulls out her phone to help him out, but Arata stops her because he handle it like a man. He wants to Yuka gets offended and leaves in a huff, while elsewhere is staring at a family photo with an unreadable expression. Kotono. Later on, Arata is walking alone and wondering what life would be like if he wasn't part of this chaotic family, but then he sees something that hurts. He spots Rara smiling at another guy, and it's a total critical hit. Missed his chance, so he heads home to get ready for. He realizes he's Kotono's birthday party. He waits until the last minute to leave his room. He feels like things never change, but room, where he's met by Yuka looking stunning in her dress, but his mind is still on fate. The silence is broken by a massive argument over lost AirPods. Arata goes into rage mode and snaps at them both to stop the petty beef. Yuka is roasting Manami for being irresponsible, so her back car name picks him up just as their father enters the room with their seats. Usual cheerful energy, and they all take. But just as the toast is about to start, related, except for Shinot, their father drops a literal tactical nuke. He reveals that none of them are biological. Manami, in a state of absolute shock. Arata and Yuka are stunned, leaving everyone because they lived their all a secret until now. Can't whole lives believing they were twins, but it turns out it was all name apology dinner, as if their entire reality wasn't just shattered, leaving apologizes for the secrecy and tells them to enjoy them to eat in silence. Living room, amazed that after the meal they regroup in the Lanami could even eat normally after that Yuka is tilted about the time relation, but see her turn to Banri for answers, since she was the argues that delaying the truth would have been worse, so they toldest when Koto might remember something, but she nervously denies it before Uno joined, before finally speaking up. She explains that blood her because they've spent their whole lives as a family, and the squad quietly agrees to call it a night. Arata is still restless, and as he heads to take a bath to clear his head, he realizes his life is turning into a harem plot. He walks into the bathroom and Fuzar freezes because Kotono is already in the tub, and she calmly asks him being too old to help wash her back. Arata tries to scold her for being. Meanwhile, Yuka is this, but she just smiles and says she feels safe with him around. Downstairs feeling like their bond that Arata will always be there is fragile now, but Shin is confident detective brother will react, or if this opens the door. Shin wonders how the public for marriage, but back in the bathroom, things get intense. Just as Arata is about to leave, Kotono rushes up from behind a silent and wraps him in intimate embrace, changing everything in a single second. Would you like me to continue? With cut to Kotono sitting at the next batch of the script, in touching a family in her room, photo like a she's staring at Arata's precious item as image, but her expression is unreadable. It's complete sus much, and Arata, it's a quiet afternoon, is stuck in his own head. He's wondering, walking home from school solo, what his life would have looked like if he wasn't part of the high-profile Zionji clan. This messin'. Maybe if he were just a regular guy, his life wouldn't be, or emotionally strikes. He spots Rara, his secret crush, vibing with another guy, angled. But as he walks his usual route, disastrous and glowing, clearly having the time of her life with this random dude. She's smiling. Moment, Arata, yeah, that sight hits harder than a critical strike. At that realizes, rip, is he probably missed his window to confess. Back at the mat for the night mansion, he's in his room, already dressed up. Tonight his family is doing a low-key celebration, Kotono's birthday, and the function. As it nears 7 p.m., Arata leaves his room to run into only Yuka in the hallway. She looks absolutely stunning in her dress. Walk into the dining room, Arata is still in his feelings. He's obsessing over fate, as they walk, thinking that some things are just inescapable, just doesn't move. No matter how hard the MC struggles, the plot vibe is suddenly killed when Alka starts roasting Manami AirPod for losing an. Manami tries to brush it off, but Oka goes sports full mom mode, ranting about responsibility and how Manami is too focused on the tension in the room is rising fast, taps at both of them to shut it, and it's getting awkward. Annoyed, Arata snaps. He reminds them they're family and shouldn't be. Seher steps in to play PC, beefing over petty stuff, keeper, telling everyone to chill out since. Right on cue, Kanem enters the room, looking as cheerful. Their dad is about to spawn in any second, as ever. He greets the kids and takes his place, a glass to toast Kotono's big day at the head of the table. Barmi raises her, but Dad hits them with a weight. Kanem asks for silence. There's more, and drops a bombshell door of the family that shatters the entire look. He reveals that none of them are biologically related. Yuka are staring at each other in total disbelief for their entire life, except for the twins, Shin and Manami. The room goes dead silent. Arata and Yives, the actual twins raised together. Kanem explains that he and Chihiro plan to tell the truth. They thought they were once Kotono hit 15. Promises no more. He apologizes for the secret and more lies. He then, from here on out, casually tells enjoy them to a dinner, like he didn't just break the fourth wall of their reality. But the siblings are sitting there like they just got hit by truck kun. Appetizers are served. Everyone is processing this new info differently. After the meal, they ate nor regroup in the living room for tea. The siblings are mind-blown that Manami, while they were all struggling to function. Luca is sobbing, calling guilty about the time the announcement a total vibe kill. Seher argues that waiting longer would have just playfully telling Oka to just relax for a second. Seher then grills back, made the plot twist even worse. Manami tries to lighten the mood, Banari, hoping she remembers when Kotono first joined, their best hope for early memories. But Banari gets nervous and the family. Since Bannery was 4 at the time, she then says she knows nothing, which is super suspicious. Seeing everyone's disappointed faces, Bannery finally opens up. Means that she explained even if things were weird back then, it doesn't change the current safe. They've spent their whole lives laughing, so she can't see them as anything and arguing like a real family thing other than her actual siblings and always about blood. Everyone seems okay with that. She drops the line, family isn't an answer, and they decide to call it a night. As they head to bed, Luca spots Arata in the break room, looking like he's having an existential crisis. Arata goes to his miles an hour room and lies down, but his brain is still running a million words echo. The truth is just looping in his head. Bannery's believe it. Nothing changes, we're still family. He wants to, but he's still thinking about Rara, rejection, and that guy from earlier. The sting of makes him want to delete the emotional damage from the rejection's whole day from his memory is hitting hard, making him want to memory wipe the whole day. Hoping to reset his mental state, the bathroom, he spots a bra sitting right in the hamper. He decides a bath is the move. As Arata enters, seriously questioning if his life just shifted, he sighs genres into a crazy harem anime. Freeze. Brushing it off, he pushes into the bath area, only to instantly stun-locked. He immediately tries to back out, but Kotono softly calls his name. Kotono is already chilling in the tub. In a totally calm, innocent voice, she asks him to help wash her back, scrubbing, quietly giving her grief for still acting like she needs an assist with this. Kotono just smiles, dropping the line that feeling his strength is still fully clothed. Arata kneels down and starts comforting to her. It reminds her of how safe his aura makes her feel. Once the scrubbing minigame is done, some quick lore on Arata drop proper bath etiquette and staying warm. Hearing her agree, finally turns to make his escape. Meanwhile, in another part of the base, Yuka is sitting solo at the dining table, quietly sipping tea. Seha tracks her down and joins in, picking up on the heavy vibes. She admits she's feeling guilty. Today was the vibe. She also confesses she's worried about Arata, since they were raised as a twin. Chose to be Kotono's birthday event, but the massive lore drop totally ruined duo. The core identity feels totally shattered now. Seha tries to reassure her. Arata might be rattled, but Seha is sure their brother will keep playing his role, dutiful, protective, and always reliable. He admits it's actually a relief that he and Manami are still legit, bloods him, related twins. But then, a much darker scenario hits. What happens if this insane family secret gets leaked? Image take to the server. How much reputation damage will their public image? He unlocks the sibling marriage route. He even starts wondering if this. Back in the bath area, just as our MC is trying to exit, Kotono ambush hugs him from behind in total silence. Yuka is back. Arata is completely frozen as Kotono locks him into this intimate embrace. In the dining room, convince him dealing with a massive debuff to her brain because the idea of siblings dating is absolutely cursed, so she tries to herself that nobody in their family would ever be that down bad, but her mind on his sisters lately, which makes her thoughts spiral even further. Mind keeps replaying the way Arata's eyes have been linked till she remembers that one suspicious incident she caught on 4K, where Arata had Kotono pinned to the floor in a very needs to interrogate Shun to get the actual lore behind that not sibling way. And since she only saw the highlights and not the full VOD, she decided that scene. Even Shun is low-key hesitant to leak the family tea. He's even though clearly unsure if he should drop the spoilers, but after seeing Yuka's serious face, he finally decides to stop gatekeeping and explains that to Arata that Kotono actually confessed her feeling day into the shadow realm, and the whole wrestling match happened because she lunged at him for a hug, causing our MC to panic and accidentally tackle her, which resulted because in both of them eating dirt on the floor. Yuka is just rubbing her temples at this point. The story sounds like different and has always been emotionally intense and completely unpredictable, so this a mid-tier fanfic, but she knows Kotono is built impulsive out, which honestly scares both. Behavior actually checks out Yuka and Shun for the future. Try to speed since Kotono now knows they aren't blood related and might run a relationship with as she Arata, which is exactly what's happening. Clutches him tight, voice tracer in the bathroom, and attempts another confession with her, trembling while she demands officially wants to know why he keeps rejecting her, arguing that since they aren't related, the brother excuse is nerfed. She knows, but her love is too up to ignore. Those people might think she's weird, so Arata turns around to face her with that classic MC sincerity, trying to tell her she isn't a bad person while suggesting her emotion suggestions are just puberty has her glitching out because of her age since way of twisting be her bodyguard until she finds a real lover, which is basically a massive sibling feelings into something they aren't, and he reminds her that he still has the protective brother role equipped even without the blood ties, so he promises to his own rejection broken as she quietly returns to the tub, and a that leaves Kotono heartbroken. Arata just drops a soft, happy birthday escape route before clutching his and sneaking out, others completely unaware that another sister has been camping nearby while Henry heads to their father's study. Arata finally makes it back to confront him about the family law. Meanwhile, to his room, the adoption room, and breathes a sigh of relief, wondering if User already sitting on his bed looking totally gave Kotono a confidence buff. But just as he opens his door, he finds Siha unimpressed, and when she asks where he's been, he tries to lie about taking a walk, but she instantly sees through his deception and starts commenting 175 thing on how his room feels oddly spacious tonight, leading them to remember the little they had to decide who got which room, where Yuka, legendary rock paper scissors, absolutely every round to claim the biggest space dominated, while L and ended up in this tiny box, and as Arata took a fat waits for her lane why she's invading his personal space, she suddenly decides to explore and without to the bed and climbs on top of him, causing his internal alarms to go into rage mode. Single warning, she eats him backward as she gently chest, and Arata is terrified that another sister is about to confess. He presses her ear to his chest, especially since their father's reveal has made her feel uncertain, but see her eventually shifts away with everything zero riz in her eyes, and looks more like she's conducting a scientific experiment than flirting. Seeming relieved as if she was just testing his heart rate to see if he was lying. A bathroom incident, which she about the bar then admits she overheard entirely, overwhelmed by how absurd his life has become, leaving Arata comically overcome, while Siha remains completely composed. Family meta. To her, the emotional confusion makes sense now that the barrier is gone, and she, as she breaks down the new drops some high IQ facts about how legal norms are based on biology social perception, meaning that and not the walls have officially fallen, and it would be hypocritical to pretend things are the same, so she gauges Arata's reaction. The other sisters might not be action, while clarifying she doesn't personally have romantic interest in him, but she warns him that he's so cheating that she prepares to leave but stops at the door to demand some respect, insisting a cuter nickname for her since she's the older sister, and the second the door he should start door closes, collapses, because his brain is overloaded with this emotional logic, and outside the room see her pauses to clench her palm as if she's trying to convince herself her own feelings are natural, but she quickly retreats when Manami notices her standing there. Next morning, Arata wakes up with zero sleep and the weight of the world on his shoulders, but as he steps into the hallway, he's greeted, and she, by Banri proudly flexing her new internship uniform, even had Kotono try it on too, demanding to know what the MC thinks of the fit, but gives a vague big NPC answer to avoid the awkwardness, which Banri takes as a total rejection, clings to Kotono for comfort, so she, while Arata desperately tries to fix his mistake by saying the uniform is nice, for school, which causes Banri to start minding them that they're going to be late, aggressively change Kotono's clothes right then and there, leading to the siblings walking to school as a group with the girls leading the charge, while the boys trail behind in the back. Trying to the girls are radiating main character energy, drawing stares from every student they pass, while Shin worries about what happens if the secret leaks start, and Arata tells him to lower his volume before the room, and the day goes by. The final bell rings smoothly until when Arata feels that Heavy knows things are stirring the atmosphere again because he's beneath the surface. Army appears, but then Mana's with her club activity, the only one who isn't bothered by the family's cancelled, and she seems like drama, so Arata just shakes his head at the exit and heads for Manami keeps pace with him with some until they are slight convo, suddenly swarmed by Arata, a mob of girls who are obsessed with her, and gets totally ignored while they photos with his sister, and he finally begs for he realizes that reached legendary status in school. Apparent Manami has really a photo of her in a mural and gave her a cult follow. Male uniform went voting, and Arata feel a bit mid compared to her massive riz, especially since he still can't help but crush his attention, but then Manami admits with a nervous laugh that the real reason Arata decides she's free is because she failed her exams. She's on academic probation and banned from sports, so would be the hero, and offers to tutor her at a nearby karaoke place to keep things private, but the plan for a serious study session immediately fails, and she grabs this because Manami is distracted by the songbook, and after a while Arata quizzes her, and she gets every single answer wrong. Suddenly her favorite track starts playing, the so accurate that Arata just starts laughing and gives up like a pro, singing about a girl who hates studying and just wants to play tennis, which is so to just enjoy the vibes, the tutoring, deciding instead. After the session, they head to the counter where Arata spots his crush. Lala instantly stiffens up with her boyfriend, and looks away, causing Manami to realize that Lala has been down bad for this is the one he's whole time. As they walk home about her biological parents, and then 229 under the sunset, Manami mentions she's curious about more, but she teases him about technically not being her brother and quickly bond is too strong for a bloodline to ever assures him that their 15-year break. He wonders silently what would happen if the family's secret got leaked to the NPC. Would you like me to please in the outside world? We'll process the next batch of the script. Classes are smooth for you. The day goes by without any major plot points. Nobody mentions the bombshell from last night. Secret hits him again, but as Arata grabs his shoes, the weight of the scene. Kotono revealed her card. Even though he looks calm, his mental HP is taking slow damage, and say some rare vulnerability. Something big is definitely brewing under the surface. Manami pops up him, apparently done next to him with her club activities for the day. Out of everyone, Manami seems the least bothered by the news. He watches her for a second. She's always full of energy and positive his head and heads for the school exit. Vibes. Arata just shakes. Manami keeps pace, yapping about her sport to achieve her some low-effort movements while he gives praise. As they step outside, they get completely mobbed. Out of Gerva her look. Arata is just standing there like a background NPC, totally ignored. Once the fan club Lils rushes over, but they are 100% focused on Manami. They're surrounding her, asking for selfies and fangirling. Leaves. He finally processes what just happened. Two of her in a male uniform went viral, and now she has a literal cult following. He realizes just how popular Manami has actually become. She explains that Arata is feeling a bit down without trying, while he can't even get his crush to notice him. He pivots and asks her what she's doing with her. He wonders how she attracts so much clout with a free afternoon. Manami nervous laughs and admits she has endemic probation, so she's banned from Snow Club today because she failed her aptitude exam. School put her on acad sports until her grades stop bottoming out. Heavy debuff for her. Seeing her bummed out, Arata offers she's acting cheerful, but you can tell this is a has to tutor her noon for the after. Instead of going home, they hit up a local karaoke private and grab a room. It's the perfect place to thought. At least that's the strategy. Focus without distractions, or so they thought. They kick off strong, with Arata guiding Manami through the study guides and quizzes. But after a bit, he tests her on the material. Her focus bar depletes fast, especially when she spots the karaoke songbook. She literally to realize she absorbed nothing. Really fails almost every single question. Suddenly, the karaoke machine triggers one of Manami's top tracks. Zero hesitation. The mic, she grabs and starts performing before he can even hit pause on the session. Arata tries to stop the lyrics of the cat hard. It jokes about a song girl who just wants to grind tennis and skip studying entirely. That's the latch their current run so perfectly, he lyrics just bursts out. He abandons the tutoring quest, laughing. Right there, he officially watching Manami dump all her energy into singing. He decides they head to the just enjoy the cutscene. After logging out of the room counter he instantly tenses up and pay. Up front, Arata spots Lala and her boyfriend just hanging in the lobby. Tries to stealth away. He notices the aggro shift and checks out the couple. Manami doing the math, she realizes in crushing on this Lala girl is the one Arata had been walking back to begs him for the chill days at sunset. Manami thanks saying it really helped balance out yesterday's massive law drop. She then admits she's curious about her actual origin and story and wants to ask their dad for the details. Her tone gets details eventually, a bit playful as she says that technically, joke Arata isn't her bro anymore but her senpai. 15-year co-op run isn't getting wiped by. The joke hits a little close to home, but she quickly gets serious. She assures him that if DNA tests, that bond is locked in, no matter is already what their stat sheets say. She brings up Lala again, telling Arata not to sweat it even if the girl knows the law. Manami casually, when Arata asks how she even naturally says Yuka Lealia. Manami playfully boops him at the gossip and swaps his big brother title for senpai 287, which is a total vibe shift As they get home and she hands borrowed Yuka some peace-offering cakes, along with the AirPods, she effectively ending 288. An unspoken truce that their sibling beef with it softens the air, leading to morning routine the next right into Arata's stands day. He's going through his usual NPC motion, Katonans, until he catches 290 in the hallway, who looks like she's lagging out before speedrunning downstairs to avoid him. But with a forced good morning, the awkwardness is at all-time high, making him wonder if he successfully sibling-zoned her, or if she's just trying to prevent further emotional damage. And before he can process the drama, see her spawns around, calls him out 200 the corner and 193 for daydreaming like a typical adolescent MC, but she won't even let him speak until he adds a Chan buff to radiate her name. He eventually gives in to the demands, which immediately 295 drops her into a casual tone as she notes the tension with Kotono isn't going away. But then Manami bursts in 296, eating Sunbeam energy and calling him senpai again, leaving her questioning if he's actually mature enough for that title. Arata just groans at the morning chaos as he heads to school 298, where he spots his crush which at the lockers, which is basically 299. Emotional self-taught Yuka immediately a picture because he is behind him to tease him into confessing. He's reminding her shuts her down by Lala has a boyfriend, leaving Yuka shocked 301, as she leaves to join her friend group and flex about their upcoming sea park trip, while Arata watches 302 from a distance and envies how effortlessly he knows she has maxed out her social riz. Star her would be a mistake, but even her friends 304 are whispering about how attractive he is to class because the hallway is suddenly too hot, which causes Yuka 305 to get flustered and accidentally praise him before speedrun. The weekend finally where the energy 307 is high as they chase mascots, but during a food run arrives and the squad hits the sea park, and Arata and Banri somehow get separated from the group. With nobody answering their phones, Banri suggests they just go on a private date, so Arata ends up 309, eating all the snacks himself and feeling sluggish while Banri Mo goes into full flood. She's clinging to his arm like they aren't siblings, and even though he's flustered 111, she points out that outsiders probably think they're a top-tier couple. 13. He tries to create some space, but his mind is lagging 300 because she's way too confident in her. He climbs the beauty, and things get even more dangerous when they reach the roller coaster. Ban stares ahead of to distract him, and because Arata is 315, by the view, he trips and faceplants on the steps in a moment of service of pure fan. He's totally shaken after the ride and tries calling. Shin realizes they've been in the complete opposite zone, the siblings again, and finally 317, the whole time easy, so the group agrees 319. Kotono is looking to prioritize day wishes for the rise her birth rest of the day. Meanwhile, Arata and Banri are resting at a food hall. Banri offers to split a churro with him about the adoption news that has been with him, which leads to a deep talk 321, laying them down. Banri admits 322 down. She won't let the secret nerf her happiness, still feeling uneasy about their shifting bond. She notices Arata is fond, so she gives him 324, a comforting, he's embarrassed head pat just like the old days, and pushes her hand. She sincerely away, but she promises she'll always be his safe. Arata is place his ovation for his big overcome with appreciate sister, but suddenly 327 trips and eats 2 tall drinks. A little girl directly toward Banri. Arata tanks the hit like a true hero. Soaked in soda, he declares that from now on hero to protect her, and as he stands there 329 he'll be the one protecting her. Things finally catch up and find Arata the rest of the siblings are looking like a drowned rat, so they decide 331 to just where the lights turn the whole place into a magical enjoy the vibes as night falls over the park dreamscape. The boys head to the restroom, see her takes the chance 333 to leak while the ultimate tea about the bathroom incident between Arata and Kotono, revealing that she even tested Arata herself to see if his heart would waver. 134. The other girls are stunned by her sticks, to just hope that Kotono's feelings are a passing phase that won't break the family dream methods, but they all agree 336. Even though she's the oldest sister, she's borderline flirting with our MC. She loops her arm around his Arata tries to strafe away, muttering, pressing right up against him without a single care. Flustered by the sudden agreeing that they shouldn't look like a couple, Henry just brushes it off, saying the background NPCs probably don't even clock them, thinking about her as siblings anyway. His brain short-circuits the chest pressing against his way too long arm, a thought he definitely dwells on. Banri eventually notices him glitters as they ching out and playfully teases him, dealing even more embarrassment damage. He finally manages to put some distance between their hitboxes and keep walking. Banri, confident as ever in her visual stats, he remarks how lucky he is to have such a top-tier older sister. Notices randos checking Banri out as Arata knows they walk past, and he can't deny she's got that presence. Undeniable. She knows it too, carrying herself with the swagger of a high-level player used to the spotlight. They push toward the park's main boss, a massive roller stairs, while a roller coaster. Banri leads the charge up the stairs. As she climbs, her skirt swishes, her trails right behind, with every step, forcing Arata to desperately look anywhere else. Totally botches a step and faceplants hard. In his distraction, he takes massive humiliation damage in front of everyone. Unbothered, Banri revives him, and they proceed. While Banri has the time of her life, Arata to board the ride gets completely debuffed, turning pale and shaky. He tries pinging. Finally, Shion notices the missed notifications and shoots the squad again, but still no luck. Fights are quick for picking up. Arata drops their coordinates in the nature zone, making the rest of the party realize they split DM but in completely opposite directions. Yuka connects the dots on how they got separated. The group decides to keep the focus strictly on Kotono, while Kotono stays quiet, clearly not loving the vibe. The group's whole quest was supposed to be her birthday event. Even missing Arata and Bad to keep pushing forward and enjoy the raid. Banri, they decide Space Coaster, a ride Kotono has been hyped for since. With the game plan set, the rest of the siblings head to the log. The squad agrees it's only right to prioritize her main quests for the rest of the day. Are chilling at the far edge of the map, taking a. Meanwhile, Banri and Arata break near a row of food merchants. Despite trying to connect, the others are still offline. Despite Banri's hunger bar drops again, so she buys a churro. She offers to co-op the snack, but Arata passes, still suffering the debuff from overeating earlier. Watching Banri happily munch on the churro, our MC starts. He carefully opens the dialogue tree. Banri pauses, connecting some dots. He figures the adoption law drop has to be messing with her stats, just like it is his. Curious, admitting the reveal shocked her, but she refuses to let it hold her back. She ran to eventually trigger reveals her serious convo with their dad, hidden lore about their adoption, and slowly extract all the low energy. She immediately switches gears. She noticed he's been super with Arata's drawn lately, and is genuinely worried. Arata about his mental HP keeps the Kotono and Seh, but admits the whole revelation left him shook. The fear event's secret, fear that they're altered, has been haunting his party dynamic is permanent daily. Seeing his stress, Banri acts on instinct and grind, and reaches over to give him a totally wholesome headbutt. Low-level noob, running to her crying after Yuka ganked him. She had always been his designated. It triggers a flashback to when Arata was a safe zone. Embarrassed, Arata swats her hand away, making Banri and tells him no matter what Patchy lean back. She looks him dead in the eye. Notes drop to look out for him and the squad. To her, she's always going to have a true clan, and she'll protect them at all costs. Hearing this, Arata feels a wave of gratitude. He remembers how Banri always carried him when the others were. That core trait of hers never changed, cemented toxic, ting her as his favorite older sister. As they prep to leave the zone, a random little trips NPC girl nearby. Two massive sodas fly off her tray, heat-seeking missiles. Without thinking, Arata body blocks the attack, taking the full splash down, locked onto Banri like image, and starts spamming apologies. The kid is absolutely horrified. Arata just laughs it off, flashing a friendly smile to calm her down. Backs the collateral damage on his Banri-inspect outfit, grumbling that his drip might be permanently ruined, because stepping up to protect his older sister is exactly what Then completely unprompted, Arata quietly declares that from now on, he's the one tanking for her. True younger brother does. The NPC girl and her mom right on literally despawn. The rest of the party finally are completely stunned to find Arata arrives, absolutely drenched in confusion. Despite the major nobody better to just finish the raid now that presses the issue, deciding its best squad is and keeping the vibes high. Are reunited. The party heads for the next zone, chatting. Arata and Banri naturally drop to the back of the formation, taking it slow. She gives him a subtle smile, saying it's totally fine. As they trail behind, Banri suddenly reaches out and locks hands with Arata. After all, she's his big sister. Night cycle hits, the theme park levels up its aesthetic. Neon lights power when the neuron casting the whole map in this insane, dreamlike glow. Luca is totally everywhere, feeling the vibe, role-playing as a princess, while Manami instantly steps up as her royal guard. Arata gets the prompt to use the restroom, and Shion immediately tags along. Kotono decides to join the side quest. Her takes advantage of the opening to drop some massive tea, keeping her voice low, saying she needs a quick AFK break too. With those three out of earshot, she reveals witnessed between Arata and Kotono in the bathroom a few nights back. The spicy cutscene she me completely stun-locked. The leak hits hard, leaving Banri, Yuka and Manami. Seha quickly runs damage control, clarifying that our MC rejected definitely Kotono's advance. She even admits she ran her own loyalty test on him with a similar setup, and luckily his stats didn't waver one bit. Yuka just stares at her, mind blown that Seha went to such extreme lengths just to check his dialogue options. Seha defends her strat, claiming it was strictly necessary. She just needed to map out their next move, especially since Kotono's aggro isn't resetting anytime soon. But agrees to avoid a direct confrontation with Kotono for now. Most are praying it's just the squad temporary deb off, but then Yuka drops another bomb. The bathroom incident definitely wasn't Kotono's first attempt to cross the line. That time they caught that'll wear her, and which was actually her first attempt to lock him down, causing Banri to worry deeply since her hopes for a Arata alone in the game room, normal family meta, are officially starting to waver, but she still wants to believe will move on, though Seha challenges this logic Kotono by suggesting those feelings might actually get an op buff now that the blood relative barrier has been nerfed, and after a pause, banning that every single one of them reveals she finally checked the family law with their dad, confirmed them is an orphan, meaning that in the squad there's zero biological connection, so for now they just need to keep a close eye. He's doing his best to reject the advances, but the squad has to stay alert and step on the MC, especially since only if things get too chaotic, return, just as Arata and the others forcing everyone to act like NPCs looking at a tea they were just spilling. As the evening winds down, they hit the souvenir shop park map to hide the where Manami and Scott doll, while Arata hangs back. Her are determined to buy the mat to observe Kotono, noticing she's back to her default setting about how they're and thinking Dad was probably worried, but after today, as fireworks go, he's sure the family bond is still intact. So often sees when he spots a girl who looks exactly like his crush last sky, only for him to free her, which is hobbies, reminding him that they aren't actually twins. And when Yuka joins him outside to tease him about his boring humor, Arata insists they'll always be related. Yuka tells him to face, but even if a reality, it was fun being his twin since they were, though she admits, always so in sync. And then without any warning, she quietly confesses that she likes him. Observes Kotono and notices that she is back to her usual self. Tracking a bit, Arata had previously that he was confused about how to actually admitted to Shun around his casually point out that they're basically sisters, only for Shun to just childhood. Arata is free to view friends now, which means I view them as love interests, and about the bathroom. Then Shun drops the bomb that he told Yuka incident, admired his grace, acting like, but he reassures Arata that she actually everyone is. He's the main lead in a romantic comedy where everyone's hooked on the twists, so when Yuka tells him she likes him for him being a dependable brother, which she quickly clarifies it's just her way of showing appreciation, makes Arata breathe a sigh of relief. Tsundia, but as she walks away, as he calls her a total way, she looks completely embarrassed, feeling like an idiot. Morning where Arata hit for letting those words slip, leading into the next hits telling him his energy is a bit much for the early morning grind, even though she still compliments training room to clear his head, and that's where Manami walks in for her routine, looking half asleep, and his discipline he's working since out purely for health, which remindedly overheard Yuka's her of how strict their dad used to be, but her mind drifts back to the amusement park where she secrets confession, and she's now feeling totally conflicted, wonder if she just misheard the whole thing, but she loses her nerve and turns toward the weights to avoid his questioning if she should ask him directly or she eventually asks if anything happened her between him and Yuka, but Arata just thinks she's worried about their usual sibling beef, so he reassures that everything is fine, leaves him alone. But after his workout, leaving Manami disappointed because she wanted him to hint at a deeper bond, so she cuts her session short and Arata accidentally walks in on Seha while she's changing, leading to a rom-com trope where Seha is surprisingly chill about it, telling him it's blood-related, which just shouldn't matter since they aren't. Arata groan at the chaos before he notices their mother's ring rest, and after cleaning up, he returns to his room by the sink, only to be interrupted by Banri, who is how neat his room is compared to his messy childhood days, impressed by, and then she, on his lap, starts wandering around his space and reads a notification up top in a teasing voice, which sets off and she leans against him and suggests they go on a date. And as they stop in front of a store, she tells quiet alarms in his head, especially with him to finally buy that smartphone he's been wanting. But then she casually mentions booking a hotel. It's time to tell for the night. It's completely flustered, while Banri just laughs it off and says she's joking, hitting Arata like a truck as he gets leading them in. Arata chooses a basic upgraded inside the store model because he values functionality over flashiness, cried him for being so predictable, noting that causing Banri to chuckle. How people choose phones mirrors how they choose partners. Sales clerk assumes they're a couple and suggests a partner plan which Banri plays totally along with, while Arata panics and blurts out a refusal, actually eventing them outside where Banri pouts about Arata is just relieved to dodging the discount, dodge the awkwardness before he cream shop where in protest, she drags him to an ice. They sit on a bench with 3 scoops of ice side by side ice cream, and the vibes are definitely shifting. To try reset the vibe, he flat out calls her a tsundia. Yuka scoffs and rolls her eyes, taking mock damage, mumbles an excuse about needing the bathroom. But as she walks away, her expression drops. Even though she tried to play it off as normal sibling banter, she feels like a total noob for leaking those feelings. She frowns, taking massive emotional damage. Arata spawns into the home's training room, hoping a solid grind session will clear his debuffs. As he starts his warm-up next morning routine, Minami logs in for her daily quest, playing the reliable. Arata greets her with max enthusiasm, big running on low battery, and tells him his energy stat rather roll, but Minami just waves him off. She's ruts are way too high for this early. Still, even though smiles and gives him a buff for his dedication, he's to his daily routine. He's not grinding for a tournament. Arata sticks drugs, saying it's mostly for his HP, but the physical grind also resets his mental state. Minami laughs, triggering a flashback of how hardcore their dad used to be, forcing Arata to grind late into the night. He admits their dad meta was pretty toxic, but he respects training Minami's consistent discipline. The theme park raid the night before. Watching him stretch, Minami's thoughts drift back to and Yuka had disconnected from the group. Minami took on the search quest. She tracked them to when the squad realized Arata was a shop and was about to trigger the dialogue when she heard Yuka confess her love. She totally froze. She stealth walked back to the party with conflict out leaking the now watching him completely locked in on his stretches. All those unresolved feelings start bubbling up again. Part of her wants to confront him directly and verify if that confession cutscene really happened. But before she can initiate the prompt, Arata reads her and asks stressed aura and if she's taken damage. Minami quickly shakes her head and dodges toward the weights. She speedruns her routine just to avoid his dialogue tree. Mid-workout, her curiosity stat maxes out, and she finally decides to ask if any new law dropped Yuka recently between him and Arata, totally misreading the prompt, assumes she's just worried about their usual PvP bickering dynamic. Even though she fakes relief, Minami takes a small disappointing. He reassures her that his bond with Yuka is fine, and that the arguing is just their appointment debuff relationship status. His casual answer leaves her wondering if he's genuinely oblivious. She was hoping he'd leak the confession law, or at least hint at an upgraded or just dodging the questline entirely. Feeling the awkward, he aborts her workout early, claiming she'll finish the grind in the. She quietly prays he doesn't flag her sudden routine change afternoon as suspicious behavior. Outside, Minami sighs, giving herself malicious mental damage for being so vague. She knows she should have been direct, but her courage stat just. Post-workout, Arata heads to the bathroom to restore his isn't high enough for that confrontation yet hygiene. But as he slides in stats, the door open, he accidentally triggers an Ekai cutscene right in on Seha undressing. Walking, he instantly breaks eye contact, mumbles apology and retronic apology treats. From inside, Seha literally starts coming internally. She tells him to chill since they're comparing the moment to a classic rom-com trope, making Arata groan siblings and keeps unequipping her gear. Before he can fully shut the door, he spots a piece of the hinge. Taking a deep breath, he reopens the door, grabs the loot caught item, and tosses it straight into the laundry basket. Hearing the shower turn on, Arata Ription law drop, realizes how completely immune Seha seems to the massive to her stats. Never the blood relations really mattered. Huge relief. Her AI hasn't changed one bit, and honestly that consistency is a huge item near the Just before exiting, he spots a very familiar ring item. Legendary drop. He asks Seha about it. She confirms, recognizing it as their mom's firms she's had equipped lately, but the sizing is off. So she unequips it before bathing, having to avoid a permanent item loss. Eventually, he gets the shower occupied. Arata decides to backtrack to the training room and wait out the timer. It's his turn to clean up and makes it back to his save room. A knock interrupts his eye, impressed by his max-level cleanliness stats. She flashes back to his noob Del animation, and Banri's voice asks for permission to enter his zone. Banri steps in and is quietly amazed when would constantly rage at him for leaving trash items, their dad items, and half-eaten consumables on the floor. Waiting for a prompt. Curious, Banri starts exploring his room, not even waiting for IP access. She clearly feeling VR snoops near his desk and catches his laptop wide open just in a teasing as a notification pops up on the screen. She reads it aloud in voice, sending our MC into a full-blown panic spin. For a split second, he thinks she's some 200 IQ hacker who cracked his password, but it's been 2 whole years since she stepped foot in here, so Arata's nope, it was just sitting there on the lock screen for anyone to see. His internal alarms are definitely him down by leaning back against him, blaring. He tries to ask what she's really up to, but then she drops the bomb, let's go on a date. A deeper she sounds casual, but there's a vibe here that's making Arata's brain lag. They end up at a department store, and Banri grills time for him to up-ins, saying it's final grade that prehistoric smartphone. Until she casually mentions Arata starts thinking this sibling date is actually pretty chill. Dinner, and then booking a hotel for the night. Busted mess. The implication hits him like a truck gun, and he's suddenly a stuttering saying she's joking and that they can save the spicy stuff for their next life. Banri just laughs it off. She skips ahead while Arata trails behind, trying to reboot his mental. Banri's sister has always been eccentric, but lately she's been way too tactile, and Arata doesn't know how to categorize. Arata is shown 2 choices, a standard upgrade or the sleek, trending model everyone is hyped about. Without skipping this behavior, inside the shop, a cheerful sales NPC approaches them with the latest tech, a beat-graded version of what he already has. Banri roasts him for being so predictable, chiding him. He picks the safe up for not even looking at the flashier colors. He tries to defend himself, arguing that functionality beats flashiness every single time. Banri drops some wisdom. It's the classic battle of looks versus saying people choose phones the same way they choose romantic partners. Performance. She claims that while performance is cool, a beautiful partner is way easier to forgive during a fight. Arata he thinks that logic is shallow as heck, but he keeps his mouth shut. Sense this conversatory for siblings. Is drifting into a dangerous terror. The seeing them together assumes they're a couple and tries to sell. Sales lady returns and sells them a partner. Arata tries to correct the misunderstanding plan, but Banrihan sounds perfect, hugs him tighter, and says the couple plan. Panic mode activated. Blurts out a hard refusal, insists Arata blasting they don't need any special plans. They finally exit the store and bang because she missed out on that sweet Banri is pouted couple discount. Meanwhile, Araction, being mistaken for Arata, is just glad he survived that social interaction his sister's boyfriend for our MC's heart to handle. Sudfriend is way too much anime sparkle thing. She grabs his wrist and drags him toward the stall before he can even process the Banri spots an ice cream shop, and her eyes do that objective. Minutes later, they're vibing on a bench with massive 3-scoop cup. Banri is beaming with pure childlike joy. It's almost enough to make Arata her and forget how weird things have been. Watching quiet amused, bringing some back for the amusement, because it's a rare sight to see her drop the teasing exterior. She casually suggests the rest would be a melted mess for the squad, but Arata immediately shuts down that plan, since before they even got off about old family food wars. Halfway home, leading them to love. They remember the time Manami stole Kotono's portion, which caused Kotono to hide in the closet for hours and earn the legendary nickname Closet Fairy. So Arata takes the chance to roast Banri for her own fear of ghosts. She literally freezes mid-bite as arguing, but then he teases her about how she never knows when to stop. The vibe gets actually okay, and even though he tries to deflect with a self-deprecating joke, claiming he's serious as Banri asks if his face just naturally sour, she reminds him she's always got his back as the big sister. Meanwhile, Kotono is scrolling through park photos until she sees a grouply look chat pic of her close, triggering a massive wave of jealousy that she tries to bury by forcing herself to return. Arata and Banri looking to her studies. Banri suddenly wants to head home after seeing Kotono's silence, and as they walk, Arata tells her she should find a boyfriend instead of hanging with him. Banri just ruffles his hair affectionately before walking ahead, and even though everyone is staring at her, Arata quietly striking beauty. He assures himself that he still values in a trait. Banri is already calling it over appearances, but little does he know, man still stuck in sibling mode. Manami is soaking in army to report that our MC is in the tub and isn't satisfied because she still remembers Yuka's confession, so she tries to text back that she misheard, but she must have been in her distracted state. She accidentally sends it to the whole group chat. She panics and message calls the before anyone can see, and while she thinks she's safe because Yuka interrupted her, Kotono managed to read the message right before it actually vanished, and now things are getting spicy. Dinner, Arata, during a normal family, notices Siha is looking completely nerfed and distant, which is the same weird expression she had on the train platform, so he instead finds her alone later and decides to check in. Instead of a normal answer, she challenges him to a legendary round of Twister, insisting that she needs to theory to help her focus on her entrance exams, and Arata is cornered by her bizarre rom-com logic. Agrees to play and desperately tries to maintain his hitbox distance to use his own, but Siha moves in closer and logic against him, really contorting into a provocative pose that makes him surrender. She claims eventually quitting is so Arata pushes through and accidentally brushes his foot against her, which triggers a full clinical analysis in mission of guilt. Siha's as she starts listing happiness hormones like dopamine and brain oxytocin. She realizes that while these highs are fleeting, real trust is what makes a relationship stable, and then the wheel on green, shifting her into an even lands a more suggestive position that makes Arata realize she's basically using logic to rationalize them, calls the experiment and being together, but suddenly her posture falters and she over, leaving Arata. She claims whatever she was feeling wasn't real, so she can focus on the study grind. So confused by the hormone talk that he lets out a frustrated scream into the empty room, only to be caught by Yuka. Suggests they hang. She's sitting out a sword in the gaming room, where Arata remembers how she used to be a loser, who would unusually determined to win. She tackle him in frustration, but tonight she proceeds to wipe floor with him and wins 5 rounds in a row, leaving the MC stunned to see her waiting with such celebrate confidence, which makes him realize just how hard she's worked to get recognition in academics, and as she leans against his legs while sports playing, he thinks about how cute she actually is. Finally, decides to take the match seriously and starts turning the tide, causing Yuka to die down. She excuses herself to the bathroom as her losing streak go far, so stay tuned. It continues, but she doesn't actually to see Emily Meta is about to be completely broken. Across the family hall, Kato quietly brooding on her bed. Her phone drops from her hand as she stares at the ceiling. Ono is she managed to read just before it was deleted. She's stuck thinking about a message. Back at dinner, the vibe light is filled with normal NPC chatter and the clinking of dishes. She's eating in total silence, but Arata is locked onto Seiha, looking like she's in a different world entirely. Seiha is usually quiet, but this distant look is definitely a red flag. Arata remembers her wearing in the common room, sitting with that same heavy energy, that same troubled expression at the train station recently. After the meal, Arata finds her alone. She looks pensive, like she's contemplating the secrets of the universe. He tries to stat is too high. He doubles back and asks if she's got something on. Walk past her, telling himself it's not his business, but his curiosity her mind. Seiha looks up, her stoic mask cracking just a instead of answering, she hits him a tiny bit, instant with a wild invitation. Let's play Twister. That she felt. She sets up the mat and explains something strange in his room the other night. She hates uncertainty, and with exams coming up, she needs to clear her head. Apparently, a round of Twister is the scientific way to test her theories. Arata is stunned. The implications are making his face turn beet red. Says there's nothing improper about it. She swears she just needs to verify if the adoption news changed their chemistry. Our relationship is ours to do, she says, sounding like a philosopher. Follow her bizarre logic. Arata is struggling to follow. She pulls the older sister card to trap him. She tells him that if he cares about her exams, he'll just play along. She reminds him how much she helped him. Cornered by her cold, hard logic, Arata study. This is basically emotional blackmail. He finally agrees to the match. His foot, trying his hardest to maintain a 5-foot. He awkwardly places his radius of. Seiha is unimpressed. Safety. Accusing him of playing way too safe and boring. I'm following the rules, he retorts, but hearing it, she's not. On her turn with surgical precision, she deliberately moves closer, closing the gap. Tension is mounting, but Arata thinks he can survive this without any skin. Her has acted contact, but Seiha activated her secret strategy. Contorting into a pose, she positions herself right in his path. That is definitely not PG. Arata is it. He tries losing to surrender and cut him, if he call it a day. Seiha glares at quits now. He's admitting she's actually affecting his heart rate. He notices she's struggling to hold the pose. She's not as cool as she looks. Circle is rocks. Instead of throwing in the towel, he decides to double down. Next move, right foot on the blue circle. Problem is that's right under her. Despite his best, he swallows his pride and navigates his leg under her like he's playing Mission Impossible. Despite efforts, he brushes. He's not sure what against her. Contact confirmed. To feel, but he manages, barely, to stay balanced. Seiha immediately goes into full serotonin. She narrows in nerd mode, listing off hormones like endorphins and sit down to dopamine and oxytocin, the hormone tons of attachment. She looks unsettled. She needs one more move to finalize. As the wheel spins her data, she analyzes human connection like a clinical study. She's basically describing the foundation. Hormones are fleeting, but trust is stable, she mutters, of a long-term relationship. She shifts into a new position. Face wheel lands on green, sitting away from him, but it's super suggestive. Arata watches her in silence, getting more still nervous by the second. It's becoming. She's looking for a logical, obvious reason for them to be together. Tension. The tension is breaking him, but before he can end the game, Seiha's balance finally hits zero. She stands up, claiming she could have fallen any other way, but no, she falls right into him. Too tired to landed. Sure, Seiha. Arata is frustrated, but his mind where she mind is stuck on its second. That split of contact and calm and collected once again. Seiha starts packing up, her expression debunked. She's decided that whatever strange feeling she had wasn't experiment over, theory real. Now she can go back to being a study bot without any mental lag. She hits him with a quiet thank you and leaves him sitting there in a day. Arata still has no idea what just happened, and then she just Twister hormones, clinical analysis, brushes it quest. She's always been an odd one, saying the wildest things with it off like a side straight face. He lets out a frustrated scream. He's completely losing his mind. Suddenly, Yuka spawns in, catching him in the middle of his breakdown. He freezes in 100. Instantly, awkwardness. She asks if Seiha was just with him, but he hits the deny. They hang out for the rest of the night. Button as fast as possible. Yuka doesn't seem to care and suggests. Arata agrees. They enter the gaming room, loaded up with snacks for a marathon session. He remembers he needs something to anchor his sanity. That Yuka. Back in the day, if she lost, she'd tackle him to the ground in a fit of rage. Yuka has always been a legendary sore loser, but things are different now. He can't stop thinking about her confession. Ever since that day, the vibes buddy mashing buttons, ready for the first round. It's weird, Yuka usually has zero game between them have been tense. When he walks in, she's all aiming skills. She's the literal definition of a noob. He looks like but today she's about to enter a pro tournament. They start and Arata gets absolutely washed, losing 5 rounds in a row. Yuka is beaming, celebrating every win with a massive grin. Arata relaxes, thinking she's finally back to her normal self. The awkwardness seems to have vanished into thin air while they play. Yuka was never a natural at anything, but she grinded. He watches her close. It's so hard tier in sports and grades that she's now topped. She shuts that. She scans the area asking if Seiha is cope with him, but he quickly leans against his legs while sitting on the floor. Down. She gets so absorbed that she wins again and roasts him for being rusty. Arata just smiles. She really is cute, just like the NPC seriously said. Time to lock in. He decides to take this match and finally turns the tide of the battle. Yuka's hype starts to. He catches up in points fade as her streak begins. She excuses herself to the bathroom, losing, but it was King Manu flanked over behind him and locks him in a playful chokehold. She circles back. When he enters the gaming room, Yuka is already on the couch button mashing, lobby open and ready. Arata is totally confused by the boosted party invite. Yuka is in a try-hard aura. She rushes him to ready up, and once the match starts, Arata gets absolutely styled on for 5. Exactly a pro gamer. Historically, her skills are bottom tier. But right now, she's got that straight rounds. Yuka is glowing with celebrating confidence every single W. Quested for a second, Arata's guard drops, thinking maybe this was just a chill side stress. He looks happy. She genuinely, tension from before had been like the weird fully patched out. He analyzes her close. Yuka never natural op stats, but she grinded hard, and now she's finally had Natalie climbing the leaderboards in both academics and sports. He remembers the rumors about classmates trying to unlock her romance route, which makes total sense to him now. As they keep gaming, Yuka's so focused she literally uses his legs as a background from her spot on the floor. When takes and she another round casual, she smirks up at him, calling him a washed-up cat. top tier cute. Arata just smiles. She really is just like the rumors said. He finally decides to stop throwing and locks in. He quickly evens the score and eventually dominates. Yuka's hype meter depletes the lobby as she goes on, and she excuses herself for a bathroom break. Except she doesn't actually leave the room. A massive lost stream. Stealthing around behind him, she suddenly locks him in a choke and gets pulled from behind. The grappling chaotic, and they end up wrestling for the script and pins her down, effectively switch dominance from every angle, but Arata isn't having it. So he flips the ching to a top-tier dominant position, staggered by the move. Yuka is absolutely while Arata freezes up, realizing he just accidentally triggered a high-tension rom, and even though he tries to play it off, he scolds her by telling himself she started it. His face is heating up. He weakly for being too rough, but Yuka just stares back with an unread expression, calling him a dense moron. Arata is left sitting there trying to process those final words moron before speedrunning out of the room with her heart in her throat. She wondering if he's finally strong enough to her hits. Unlike the tank, old feels way more days when he was just a punching bag, but the vibe more complicated than that. Is definitely. He decides to call it a night, completely unaware that the closet fairy Kotono was hiding in a cabinet, and witnessed the entire wrestling match, which is going to mess with the family meta routine. The next day starts with the usual, and that evening Arata finds himself in the study, with his dad who starts asking about the sibling, and Arata admits things, energy, they've been acting a little too animated lately. The option news stirring up their emotions, but then the dad, thanks to the adopt, drops a direct question, asking if Arata has a Meanwhile the girls are in the living room, crush, watching a romantic drama that cuts to black on a cliffhanger, triggering a massive wave of frustration, and a deep flex some surprisingly dive into their own romantic fantasies, where Yuka and see her high standards of yet. For the perfect confession, though Manami tells Kotono not to worry about love, since and Yuka she's just a middle schooler, but just as the older girls get up to gossip about Shika, found with a burst of determination, declares Kotono stands her glaring that she is officially in love with Arata, and that they are all now rivals for his affection, leaving the room in a state of absolute silence. Says it was for her looks, which sounds like a shallow NPC answer. Back in the study, the dad is talking about Arata's responsibilities as the eldest son, and when the MC asks why he chose their mother, the dad bluntly until he adds that her calm strength and spirit were the real charms that made him fall. Arata can't really in love, picture it since there's only one photo of her, but the deals she hated being on camera. And then dad reminds him of the promise about room number 8, saying that he'll show them the mystery contents when they're older, so Arata promises to take care of the household and keep the family vibes warm. After the adopted son leaves, the dad whispers how proud he is of his adon, and suddenly we get a sneak peek whose face stays at the endgame where a young girl is running through the yard laughing, looking for a mother who's hidden, getting a head start on work, but the system. Flash forward to a morning where Arata are troubled by his confession, so Manami decides to show Kotono her worries and speed fast. She runs into Arata after his jog run to tennis practice, since the competition is coming up, and tries to that her distracted dodge him, but he stops her because he's worried state will not, so she nerf her performance on the court. She insists she's fine and sprinted. Banri is scolding the chubby family Doberman for refusing to away. Inside Exa and proceeds to bite him, size, and the dog blames Arata, leaving exhausted on the floor while the MC exile. Manami is deep into foot tennis practice, where her composure finally breaks and she accidentally hurts her. Her clubmates are obsessed with her skills, but training her techniques, so she's terrible at explaining. She spots her friend 736, Hinata, and challenges her to a game of raclette for free drinks. Hinata gets sentimental, obliterating her and earning her soda. Hinata about graduating soon and calls Manami a hardworking athlete, but then 738. Manami overhears that Hinata failed her uni recommendation and might have to quit tennis, which sends 700 a wave of sympathy through her and offers to be her trainer, which confuses her 742, since she's already the pro in the family chest. As she realizes this is her friend's final competition, she vows to give it her all, but that evening, a servant tells Arata that Manami is overworking, despite her injury, so he enters the training room until he knows she's hiding an injury. He calls out her trash lying skills and mentions the taped ankle, asking if this is the reason for her weird behavior, while Yuka is in her room trying to relax, but Kotono's declaration of war is still living rent-free in her head. Back in the training room, Arata helps Manami with some slow stretch, fidgets and groans that it's boring, making Arata realize how much she's changed since to check her damage levels, but since they were bonding over games and workouts, and even though her childhood bestie's beauty draws attention from everyone, he tries to ignore his thoughts and asks if she's actually told the team about the 748, the injury. Prepare the final batch of the script for you. Would you like me to prepare? Kaname explains she hating her picture taken, it was a quirk he found charming. Do you remember? Then he asks for the promise about room number 8. Khan once promised to show them the mystery contents of that room when they were older. Before leaving, Arata tells Kaname he's still got mad respect for him, despite the secrets. He promises that from now he'll take over the household and keep the foul on. Kaname can finally rest easy. Family vibes warm and loving. He whispers that he's proud of Arata. After he leaves, Kaname looks at a photo of his late wife, genuinely gropped at RMC. Years later, Arata is grateful that he had standing outside, watching a young girl run through the yard. Is this the start of a new generation? Guess we'll have. Her laughter totally sets the mood as she finally joins his party. To wait and see. She spots her mom and starts calling out to her. See the mother's face, but she's officially joined the pair. We still can't party. Arata pulls an early bird move. Wiz are still waking up before the sun to grind on some work. Back at the house, the sisters in Koto. Manami's unexpected confession decides to shelf the drama for now. She's just finished his morning jog, tennis competition to win and zero time for distractions. She opens the door and runs straight into Arata, who awkwardness 100. She tries to is lagging to dip, but Arata can tell her connection. He stopped keep her head in the telling her to game since the match is so close. To get that he wants her to and his warrant merit her mental state will tank her stats, sprinting towards school to outrun her own thoughts. Inside, Bannery, she caps and says she's fine. He is roasting the dog for being a lazy glutton who hates exercise. Families calling their Doberman out for getting a bit too chubby. Arata walks in and joins the roast. He suggests a diet, but the dog decides Arata is the villain and goes for a direct attack. Bannery joins them and notices Banner says he can handle breakfast. Suri is running late for her school quest. Solo, while Arata is currently defeated on the floor. Pup. Meanwhile, Manami is already on the court, activated by the aggressive hating her tennis skills by how much power she's outputting. The other girls are shook. She's holding it together until swarm her with compliments and beg for her secret techniques. But Manami's explanations are until Kotono's words pop up in her head, causing a misstep and a foot injury. During the break, her clubmate's total mess. Her tutorial skills are 0-10. She's serious skills stat. The girls don't mind though, thinking her perky gap moe personality is actually lacking points in the explaining her actually super cute. Manami locks eyes with Hinata. It's a total wash. Manami wins easily and secures her, and immediately challenges her to a game with drinks on the line as the free loot. Post-game, Manami might act overconfident, but Hinata knows she's the most Hinata gets emotional about graduation, joking that Manami will have to find a new NPC to leech drinks from. She admits she was worried when Manami first joined the party. Hard-working athlete on the server to the big league. Hinata stares into the sunset, hoping Manami goes pro and makes it easily trash. She drops a truth bomb. The school team is actually and Manami has been carrying the whole squad. Despite the carry, her with a smile and a tease, making Hinata panic and try to. She's got a good feeling about everyone leveling up for the next competition. Manami hit to delete her gossip while warming up. Turns out Hinata felt speech from existence. Break time is over, but Manami overhears some spicy club failed her university. Her tennis career might be dead on arrival. Recommendation. With path blocked, the NPCs say she might have to quit the sport and get a real job. Manami freezes. Looking at Hinata, she feels the pro-passive as Hinata being the first one to welcome her with a smile. They used to play Hinata's quirky custom game all the wave of sympathy in her chest. Flashback time. Manami remember time. Weird custom game Hinata invented. They'd grinded a few rounds of raclette that, even though Manami's Hinata got destroyed every match, she laughed it off, fully believing the rumors about skills. Enough courage to ask what the lore behind raclette even was. During a break, Minami finally gathered. Hinata just shrugged and said she was a massive Federan. Minami giggled at how completely blunt the answer was. Riding that positive Hinata revealed her ultimate goal, eating her favorite sweets while ranking 1 on the global tennis leaderboards. Before can get lost in the flashback, practice officially ends. Minami grabbing her gear hits her, This is a heavy realization going to be Hinal tournament arc. That single thought maxes out her resolve. She has to go all out, no matter the Arata's fine HP cost. That evening, an NPC servant pings Arata, warning him that maneuver grinding. In the training room, Minami is forcing her way through the routine. Minami is dangerously keen, completely ignoring the damage warning on her foot. She refuses. She checks her flank and sees Arata just standing at the entrance. He doesn't trigger any to abort the mission. The door suddenly creaks open. Dialogue at first. He just closes the distance, his expression totally unreadable. Finally, he breaks the silence. He offers to become her personal coach. Minami is totally stunned. She's always been the family's top-tier 0-sense athlete and already has pro-level trainers. The offer makes literally holding eye contact with an injury. Minami completely freezes. Arata bluntly states he knows she's debuffed. At first she tries to. Arata isn't buying it for a second. He gives her a deadpan stare, telling her deception skill is absolute to dodge the accusation, faking a high energy status and claiming her HP is totally full. Garbage. He always knows when she's hiding a status effect. He explains a servant caught her using a healing item on her ankle, and he wonders if the debuff is what's causing her glitchy behavior. Minami stays silent. The physical damage, emotional is part of it, but the awe runs way deeper. Is her to get proper healing, or at least let someone co-op the training so she doesn't take stuff she's not ready to leak yet. Arata urgent damage. Meanwhile, Yuka is in her save room trying to chill, but her thoughts are totally distracted. Kotono's sudden confession event from last night is still living rent-free in her head. Minami and Banri tried to write it off as just a weird effect from watching too many side of romance anime, but Seha immediately shot down that theory. Even though Kotono is a lower-level player, her romance even stats for might be totally legit. Yuka's mind drifts back Arata to their own session. Her cheeks burn just thinking chaotic co-ops about it, taking some serious emotional critical hits. Back in the training zone, Arata is guiding Minami through a slow stretch routine. It's his low-key way of HP bar without her triggering an argument. Minami, however, is losing her patience at this. She groans, complaining the beginner-level tutorial is boring and completely useless. Arata glanced back in the early game. He and Minami had the highest synergy of all the siblings. They bonded over co-op games and grinding stats is over at her. Even while she's complaining, he realizes how much her character model has leveled up. That's together. He always respected her high stamina and mental fortitude, and still does, despite being the most athletic. Her charisma aura constantly pulls aggro everywhere she goes. Class, Minami also rolled the highest beauty stats in the FAMUs. Both guys and girls instantly fall into her fan club. Arata quickly cancels that thought, telling himself to focus, and asks if she's reported the debuff to her guild. Minami looks guilty and admits she hasn't. She's hiding her and since injury, everyone expects her to be the carrying force. She's terrified of nerfing their She knows the team's stats confidence, which is why she cuts off Arata's scolding to defend her decision to keep playing despite the damage are limited, even if a substitute. So Eve steps in. She admits there's a specific person she wants to win for them. They won't have the power to win the tournament, but more importantly, this year, that and motivation pushing her is a tank that was pain. She tries for Arata to reassure her that the injury is totally managed, relents but warns her not to overexert her limitageable as long as she monitors her movement. So Arata finally did HP, insisting that it's a proper assessment at the hospital because a serious injury could end her career permanently. End her tennis. They switch places so much stretch, but Minami can help quickly. Is stiffer than a low-level NPC and gives him notices Arata in an encouraging push, which is a mistake because Arata instantly becoming hyper-freezes, aware of the physical contact, in a state of absolute flustered panic. And while he's Minami is looking completely innocent. Arata's brain blue screens, suddenly way too aware of their hitboxes overlapping. But just as Arata heads to the bathroom, they say their goodnights and part ways. He spots Kotono looking like she's their first one-on-one since the bathroom incident, and even though she's been acting like she's about to have a mental breakdown, like a normal NPC, Arata realizes so he tries to ease the tension by telling her to head to bed before they haven't spent any time together late before she catches a cold. But then, Kotono gathers her courage to ask if he was just hanging out, which catches him with Minami off guard before he admits they were just training, leading him to ask if she's worried about the injury too. Ono hastily denies it and speedruns back to her competition room, and suddenly the day of the arrives. Manami is reflecting on how he's standing on the court with her nerves at max level. Hinata was her anchor through all the years of training, so she pours all her gratitude into a powerful serve. That secures the win and sends her school to finals, where she's warmed by teammates celebrating the victory. Hinata gives a proud smile for carrying team, but while managing the team is because her injury is flaring up with every single step, beaming. She lingers behind, and later that evening, Arata is relieved to hear her training of the big final is bringing in a specialist to help her recover. On the finals, looking like a total fanservice moment in her underwear, Arata finds Banri eating breakfast and she smirks about needing him to train. When Siha notices Manami her if she gains weight, but the vibe shifts. His gear is still untouched at the entrance, meaning she is nowhere to be found, and just as anxiety starts to peak in the house, she's just a supporter who doesn't need to arrive early to the match, leaving everyone in complete disbelief. Manami walks in casually with a convenience store bag, acting like thief as she shuts her door. Arata checks who quit the quest, and she claims Hinata told X on her and finds her eating chips and reading manga like an absolute NPC to rest her foot to save her future, until Shin reveals she was actually, but Arata isn't convinced, sobbing her eyes out in the yard earlier that morning. She's putting up a front to avoid worrying. The fabs her hand and yeets her toward the van family, so Arata storms in, where Banri is waiting, having 0 XP, and they have to race across town to drive despite with only 20 minutes left on the clock. Remembers how Hinata Manami hugged her and encouraged her to rest, but Arata makes her promise the match has already started, as to forfeit if the injury gets worse, reminding her that she needs to stop lying to herself. And while the team is losing, the van gets trapped in a massive trap, so Arata graphic jam. They're losing precious minutes. Siha's phone to rent a couple of bikes. Legendary speedrun toward the stadium with and starts a army on the back. The team just suffer inside the stadium, a crushing loss in the doubles match. Meanwhile, Arata is pedaling with max strength while reminding Manami about a Mother's Day. The siblings were growing closer. Note she wrote years ago. She was thankful, and that positivity has always been a stronghold for the family. So even though smartest, she's not the most hardworking person he knows, and he hopes her dedication finally pays off before spectacular victory to pull the team back into contention. But for the final, they reach the court where the pressure is immense. Hinata secures and most critical match. Arata literally bows his head to the forward and ground to beg the coach to let Manami play. Has no clue why and show the world her true power. Even Takumi has despawned from the house, and she isn't at the tournament. Quest marker is. It's official. Manami the mansion map. The party arrives at one terrible conclusion. After completely clearing the Manami is totally MIA. And with tennis gear with her legendary tail sitting by the door, there's 0 chance. The party's stress level. She went to the mat will spike, but before they can finalize a strat, the front door as they try to brainstorm her location opens, and Manami just casually spawns back in. She throws out a normal greeting, holding a convenience store loot bag, just stares at her, completely stun-locked. The entire squad casually drops that the support class doesn't need to arrive early. A second later, her save room door clicks shut. The family is left in the lobby, totally clueless totally ignoring their confusion as she heads upstairs. How to process this cutscene. Even Shion, her looks like his game just literal twin crashed. If anyone had the stats to read, was him. Read Manami. Arata's concern meter is maxed. Decides to initiate a dialogue, so he stealths into her room bed, eating junk food and reading manga, and finds Manami just chilling on her and greets him like everything's perfectly fine. She looks up. Arata takes a seat to scan if she's using a disguise spell on her emotions. He asks for the door behind the main event. Behind her skip, Min explains that Hinata noticed Manami increased her movement speed, dropping from the foot injury, and benched her for the finals. That taking more damage now could permanently ruin. Hinata was worried in her late game. She drops all this lore tennis build, totally calm, acting like the debuff is no big deal. She even jokes that she probably didn't have to win anyway. Have the stats way. Even though her completely fails the persuasion check. Surface level acting is solid. Arata, he aims but stops right outside her door, sensing a trap. The vibes are entirely off. Exits the roof hallway and pulls him into a private chat. Inside, Shion. That's when Shion intercepts him in the hall. Finally drops the secret intel he's been hoarding. He caught Manami in the earlier yard that morning. She was massive emotional, completely breaking down, taking mental damage, Minami hedge over getting kicked from the roster. Shion didn't initiate contact, no 8-old tough letting people see her HP drop. He explains her half-girl act is just an illusion spate. He kicks Minami's door open, grabs her hand, and tells so the party doesn't worry. Hearing that, Arata doesn't even hesitate, literally side where the rest of the guild is waiting. He drags her outside the transport. Banri steps up to drive, even though her driving skill is definitely not maxed out. With only 20 minutes per speed before the match timer hits 0, they have no choice but to run to the tournament in Minami come the family van. Surrounded by her chaotic guild in the van, completely zones out. She remembers the conversation with her coach, who had expected for the next season. Minami tries to reject the admin decision, explain that she couldn't compete. Hinata steps in with the gentle suppression, telling her to save her stats, swearing she wants to carry the game for Hinata. She says that Hinata is the reason she even grinded back into tennis. Shaky, but her resolve, her voice is maxed out, just for the achievement. This isn't achievement. Moved by the speech, Hinata initiates trophy, it's personal. It's a hug. For the she thanks gesture, but the grab-ban hammer stays down. Attitude doesn't fix a broken hitbox, unfortunately. Present, Minami stays on the bench, because the devs decided the injury risk is too high. Snapping back to the Arata gonna play on interrupts the cutscene. He tells her if she's hard, he's not angry, just genuinely hard mode. She has to promise to rage quit the second she feels pain. Worried about her HP, he tells her to stop masking her status of bar effects. Lying to the squad and tanking damage in real life has consequences. Meanwhile, the tournament helps no one. She's not invincible, timer is ticking, and Minami's team is already taking L. Despite being close to the map marker, the van gets stuck in unskippable traffic lag. They are literally burning the clock. The stress levels inside the vehicle start redlining. Panic sets in as they realize they might fail the time-limited quest. Game over seems imminent. Suddenly, they spot a row of rental mounts on the sidewalk. Seha flexes that she has a premium account for these bikes. Arata instantly loots her phone and grabs Minami, sprints for the vehicle. Is the tennis. Seha tosses gear like with Minami on the back, and they speedrun toward the stadium. Inside the arena, the duck a support item, shouting at Arata to complete the delivery mission. Arata equips the bubbles. Match ends in a total defeat. The duo off Warfin. The entire championship run now rests on Hinata's shoulders. Shame, passing the baton to Hinata for the singles match. Meanwhile, Arata is spamming the pedal button. Minami holds on tight, feeling the velocity, burning all his stamina. She wonders why the whole guild is grinding so hard just for her. Arata is too winded to reply immediately. His stamina second, he drops some lore. He reminds bar blinking red. But after her of a Mother's Day event from years ago, while everyone else posted sad content about their mom, that even though mom despawned, Minami posted something wholesome. She wrote, she was grateful the siblings were. That positivity buff stuck with partying up closer. Arata forever. He tells her that her optimism is basically the clan's passive ability. Since the real days, she's been the one surviving every time, smiling through damage. Self-remic is led she fell. She might not have the highest INT stat, but her work ethic is her now. He hopes her hard work pays off, but he makes her pinky promontory. He's always respected her hustle. That's exactly why he's carrying us to stay safe. This isn't just a side quest. Minami squeezes tighter, promised it's about her entire future arc, to keep her HP above 0. Back at the stadium, matches are in the solo full swing, and Hinata is out there fighting like cures a massive W, keeping the team's dream a final boss. The pressure is insane, but she's alive. With the hype restored, the critical endgame match falls on the team sheest member. Minami sprints to the court, her heart hitting the red zone. The squad is already there. She's ready to bear and beg if it means getting back in the lobby, and hits a deep bow right in front of the. But before she can speak, Arata steps up and PCs. The gesture is sudden and totally sincere, and the coach to let me. He pleads with Hinata back into the match. Risks, but she's worked too hard to be better. He explains she knows the wrench now. Anything. She's put in the hours and more than she wants. Me bows to that victory trophy. Moved by her brother's support, Minami wants is one single voice finally steady. All she wants chance to stand on the court and fight. Hinam and decides Hinata watches to back them up, echoing the request to the coach. And cons. The coach gives Minami the look over, weighing the pros. Finally, he grants her permission to join. The Zionji clan in the battle and arrives, and Arata steps away to update to give Banri the status. As Minami steps onto the court for the serve, a massive wave of anxiety hits her. The weight of the team's hopes and the pain in her leg are heavy stacking up like buffs. The win is over. The pressure is overwhelming, but that Shin's voice is booming from the sidelines. Then she hears it, shouting her name. Her siblings. She looks over and sees cheermen. She's feeling the love, and her nerves finally start to set, like a group of ultimate hyptal. She flashes a smile at her a few rows back, watching her focus coming back into frame. She spots her intently. Taking a deep breath, she moves in as her opponent serves the ball. She like lightning, her body just about Hinata's legacy anymore. It's for everyone who feeling weightless and driven by pure will. This match isn't carried her and lifted her up to this moment. Against all odds, Minami is playing with absolute beast mode energy. She's scoring points and her movement is stamina bar hits 0 and her opponent catches up, sharp, catching everyone off guard. For a second it looks like she'll pull off the upset, but in the end Minami takes the L. At the bus stop, the team is Hinata tries to be the support in tears, feeling the weight of the defeat. But Minami's wiping her own face. She steps up first, a goofy grin to lighten the mood with an apology for the loss. But the mask slips. She can't keep sincerely up the happy NPC act. She bows low, apologizing, slap her for being so stubborn about playing. But Hinata isn't having it and bows deeply right back to her for letting the squad down. She even tells Hinata to serve her heart and her absolute warrior. She thanks Minami for her talent spirit. She says real mistake would have been leaving her on the bench. The whole team is Minami is the team's light, bringing joy to every single game they played. The watching, smelling through the tears. Zero blame for Minami. Her presence alone was an S-tier buff for everyone waiting in the parking lot lobby. Meanwhile, the Zionji clan there's talk she might bus it back with the team, but nobody is ready to log off longer yet. They decide to camp out a little, just in case. Some are chill, but others, like Yuka, are super salty. She's venting, blaming the injury. She needs a ride. In the van, the siblings are discussing the match results and the last-minute stadium sprint for the loss. Meanwhile, Arata wanders off to spots Minami alone on a bench under the trees. She looks distant, staring at nothing like she's lost to find the missing MC. After some high-level scouting, he's in a loading screen. Her posture is stiff, dinner is ready, but he stops when he sees that empty eyes look. She's clearly in her feelings, totally drained from the championship arc. He was going to tell her that, and when she thinks about how hard everyone worked to get her there, only for her to let the party down. Finally notices him, she hits him with a tired, sad smile. Minami admits she's feeling completely defeated. Her leg is a constant reminder that she lost her one body is aching, and her V1. Her team her. But she feels like they should have flamed her mates thanked her instead. Kindness feels like a debuff she didn't earn. Then she wanted the scolding. She's starting to hate her own character design, right? Disappointed. So many people admire her, but she feels like a total fraud. But then the vibe shifts. She remembers she almost stayed in bed and missed the entire endgame. Gratitude now. She mocks herself, thinking she's just given everyone a reason to be dude starts. She thanks Arata for forcing her to level up and giving her the chance to fight. Even with the loss, to win needed this closure. Permanent regret status. Staying home would have left her with a She stands up to focus on her next objective, meat pies at home. The girl is starving for some comfort and pulls her into a sudden embrace. Food. But Arata stops her. He holds her tight, doesn't need to put up a fake front anymore, telling her it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to cry like a kid. And with that, she starts falling without any restraint as she clings to him. Finally breaks. The tears him. She admits he absolutely hates how much losing. It's a feeling she never wants to spawn into again. She's doubting her own skills, wondering if any amount of grinding will actually be enough to prevent this. She's sobbing, letting all that pent-up emotion flood the just stays there, acting as her emotional anchor. He promises her she's leveling up and will only get stronger with time. Later, in the shower, Minami is area. Arata replaying the moment begged for her to play. The memory of Arata is stuck in her head now that the adrenaline held her while she cried and stayed until she was done. Adrenaline has worn off. She thinks about how he found her. It was her most vulnerable moment, and Arata was the only one who didn't judge. That kind of support is hard to forget. Back in the living room, the household is winding down for the night. But Yuka is still visibly salty about the match. It's been days, but she's still carrying the upset status effect like a curse. She's venting about the unfair results and the team's failure. Arata tries to talk some sense into her. He says the final score doesn't. What matters is that Manami actually got to play the even matter anymore game she loves. This just makes Yuka even more triggered. He enters. Yuka tries to gaslight her into thinking she actually won. But Manami is chill now. She says it doesn't matter. The results don't define her character arc anymore. Not liking this new peaceful Manami. Yuka is fuming. Manami explains that glad she didn't get a permanent injury from the finals are just part of the gameplay. She's just glad was the real victory for her. Getting to stand on that court, the family starts roasting Yuka for her over the action, while Manami sits by Arata after her bath since the night air is chilly. Manami blushes. She wasn't ready for. He asks if she warmed up after that sudden Yuka grabs the Doberman's ball and brother kindness, determined to prove the winning shot was in bounds. She starts reenacting the play right there in the living room. The dog thinks it's playtime, starts dancing around her, waiting for the throw, ball straight at Manami. In a fit of rage, Yuka launches the Arata has proglexes, catching it midair to Shiema refilled her. Manami is shook. She's not used to being damsel in this story, especially with him about how every other girl in the house. She thinks a house is down bad for Arata too. Maybe her own feeling the things aren't a glitch system. It's actual. She smiles, finally realizing her a pretty common status effect in this household. Feelings % normal. A 100. Later that night, Kotono is scrolling through her. She's thinking about her bold confession phone, trying to log off for the day. From a few nights ago. She wanders easily to the others. A knock at the door is why she leaked her true feelings, so who could it be? It's Yuka. This looks like a scripted event in private. She wants a 1v1 talk. The rest of the squad is oblivious to this secret confrontation to go down. Yuka checks out the room, admitting the decoration game is actually pretty about to be strong. Kotono is puzzled, asking what the actual objective of this visit is. Yuka brings up the love rivals declaration and understand her sister better. She felt bad that Kotono made earlier. She wants to clear the air so cornered during the family meeting. She wants Kotono to feel safe so they can avoid any. Kotono cuts her off, her voice sounding surprisingly confident. She says she already knows toxic drama. Yuka has a crush on Arata too. Manami accidentally leaked the intel that Yuka confessed at the amusement park also saw the accidental event in the game room the other day. Yuka freezes, the cringe is too real. Her face is glowing red, completely mortified. Kotono admits she was literally camping in the closet. Extreme stealth. How did you even see that? She stammers. Kotono blushing too, unable to look Yuka in the eye. She's blind. Yuka takes a deep breath and tries to clear her search history. Was just sisterly. She claims her amusement park confessed love and nothing more. As for the game involved, no matter how the scene looked, total glitch, it was just a weird accident. Zero romance. Kotono's eyes light up. So you really don't. She's hopeful like a kid on Christmas. Like him confirmation. Yuka like that. She asks for hesitates, then hits the confirm button. Is flooded with button. No romantic feelings. Kotono leaf and apologizes. She feels bad for judge rolling her sister for the misunderstanding without the text. Yuka accepts with a fake smile, but full contact. Her eyes. She leaves the room, but her brain is stuck on look like they're buffering. Arata's smile and her racing heart. Was that really the whole truth? She heads for a bath to clear her cat. Next question. Banri needs a bodyguard for a late night school mission. She asks Shin and Yuka, but they both hit her with a hard no thanks. She's stuck waiting for Kotono or Manami to respawn at home. Instead, she spots Arata walking in. Perfect timing. She sprints to him, begging for help with a favor. Now Arata is standing outside a spooky college campus. They ninja sneaked at night with his sister, past the guards to enter the off-limits zone. All ghosted her. Why couldn't your college friends help? Arata asks. They likely because they didn't want to enter the haunted school arc. They're walking, and Arata finally through the dark, eerie hallways. He figures out for this midnight run out the real reason. Banri left something too high to solo it. Would you like important? But her fear of ghosts stat is way like to see what happened in the dark. By word go, Banri hears the ghost and practically glitches out. She's replaying every horror trope story out in fear her classmates ever shared about restless spirits, haunted classrooms, and her anxiety is redlining during her internship, feels like a literal, and the thought of working the night shift death's quiet school sentence. As they navigate the spooky, Arata's finally peaks. He's one curiosity wondering why she chose the nursing but handled this path if she can't. Spooky hospital hits him with the silence debuff. She's clearly not real arc. But when he asks, Ban ready to leak her backstory, so he decides to drop the subject. Instead, they can exit. He takes point, determined to find her loot so that the dungeon. Meanwhile, back at the mansion ASAP, Yuka is struggling and scrolls through some videos, but her eye to focus on her study grind. She takes a break, eyes lock onto an image of a mountain. Back in the haunted college, Banri is officially losing. Something about that scenery is holding her attention hostage, her cool. Wind howling against the glass. The wind is a 10/10 jumpscare soundtrack for her, dear legendary shield. Her grip is tightening, and she's clinging to Arata's arm like he's an S. Arata is feeling the pressure, but he doesn't want to push her away and tank her morale, or sing to distract herself, but Arata hits her with the. She wants to talk or mute command. They're already on a stealth mission, and making noise is a great way to attract an aggro security. Suddenly, a noise triggers Arata's Savinri's mouth and pulls her into a dark corner. Preval instincts. He covers bashing them together to dodge detection. The guard's footsteps echo like a horror game sound effect, but the NP eventually moves on. We see only once the detected meter drops to zero with a massive embarrassment buff. Arata is standing there buffering. Realize zero does Arata let go. Banri stands up, her cheeks glazing. Banri has definitely leveled up since their childhood arc. She definitely with. Banri doesn't feel like the kid he used to play to ignore the spicy vibe and tells him they need to keep moving. They finally hit the quest marker, a club room at the end of the hall. The room is high school trash tier club rooms, surprisingly clean. Unlike the typical she dives shelf and grabs her prize, a half-finished cat plushie. The piece for a stitching is still loose, showing it's a work in progress. It's obvious she's poured a ton of exp into this craft. Behind this was the legendary loot she couldn't leave. Otter stares at the unfinished plush in her hands, confused. He's wondering why she'd risk a caught by security. Game over for some fluff. Turns out it's a gift for a kid in the pediatric ward where she's interning. Few were solo queuing, feeling scared of the sterile environment. During her hospital visit, she saw most kids playing together. But the upperclassmen brought toys and smiles to help the little NPCs. Watching them pull a wholesome move, the one who brings light to a dark lobby, and make the kids laugh gave Banri her sense of purpose. She wanted to be that support player. It's her ultimate dream. She wanted to make sure every kid got a gift, so felt left out. It's a simple quest, but for Banri it's S-tier importance. She admits her main objective always been to make children smile. That goal actually comes from a deep childhood memory. Had to visit their mom. As the eldest, she used to go to the hospital with her dad. Those visits were peak happiness, but the leaving segment always hurt like crazy. Cry, overwhelmed by the loneliness. Sometimes she'd hide in a corner and status effect. A nurse NPC found her and hit her with some words of comfort. Soft word. That kindness was a core memory. The seed for her to become planting a pro. Otter listens to her backstory, feeling nurse herself. Walking out, a bit touched. He tells her this earlier. It's a totally valid question. She should have shared the best off, claiming she was just nervous about the plush. Banri laughs it off. She loot. Then she hits him with a playful tease about their proximity earlier. He jokes that he got a pretty good experience back there in the dark. Arata starts speed walking to hide his red face. He's taking massive fire damage. Banri laughs and chases, not wanting to be left in the dark alone. Next days after him, the pediatric ward is filled with energy laughter with high. The kids are stoked at the gifts Banri handcrafted. About mission successful. She sends Arata a selfie with the kids, success, flexing that she finished without his help. A few days later, the mock exams are out, exam result, and Yuka is looking at her sheet. She's the classmates are swarming her, assuming she's server leader in scores again. Smile and nods, keeping the perfect student facade active. But when she's alone, she fakes a smile. The truth is revealed. She's got a massive D grade staring back. Saturday morning, Arata spots her at the door. Where are you going? With a massive bag. He asks. Yamanashi, she says bluntly and just walks off. Cold. Arata's left standing there, totally confused by her abrupt exit. Here, recent drama assumes she just needs a solo break after all the drama. Getaway makes sense, right? Monday is a holiday, so a weekend. The household goes about its day, but Tuesday rolls around and she's still around MIA. Now the unease status effect is hitting everyone. Is on. The sisters are standing on the train platform, and the vibe is totally off. Yuka, the center of the squad, officially gone. She went dark, messaged saying she wasn't coming back to school yet. The with lack of pings is making the girls crazy. Worry. Yuka at school, even the classmates are grilling Arata for info. Never misses class. Arata, so this is a major red flag for everyone. As the rest of the NPC admits he's just as clueless. He's trying sanity to stay cool, but the uncertainty is eating his. He just wished to them she'd stop playing in invisible mode and talk chaos. Meanwhile, Yuka is chilling in a hot spring, far from the cave. Steam is everywhere, peaceful buffer, and she's finally caught a But when she hit intel to himself, masking his worry from the rest of the base. But internally, the uncertainty is eating away at his mental health. Seiha thinks the whole thing is super sus. Yuka is upset. It's the local station to head home. She freezes. Instead of boarding, she pulls a U-turn and heads back into the mountains. He's keeping obsessed with her reputation. Ghosting like this is a massive debuff to her image. Seiha snaps at Arata, mad that he can't even reach her. Everyone is shook. Seiha almost never breaks her cool and collected character. Act Yuka's signal. She's somewhere near Mount Fuji. Then Banri rushes in like she's just found a legendary treasure map. The girls immediately jump to the worst conclusion. Aokigahara Forest. Shintragahara tries to calm the raid party down before the panic spread. Banri is so stressed she's tripping over her own feet, her clumsiness stating his next move. Back in Yamanashi, Yuka is through the roof. Arata is silent, Calculator is heading. The old lady running the shop sees her and is like, back again, back to her inn. Yuka books another night, saying there's something on Fuji she has to see. Thinks she's just chasing a sunrise. The innkeeper, giving her a wholesome smile. Arata finally reaches his limit, no more waiting. Announces Fuji to bring her back for school. As he's heading to Mount Fuji, Seiha steps up and gives him the green light. Bring our sister home. Arata boards a bus for a long tries to block him but distance travel segment station, the point where the real climbing gameplay starts. He hits the fifth Banri for a jeep camping her phone, confirm PS update. She's been coming. Yuka's signal hasn't moved, he's off the grid. Arata figures she's at a remote lodge and starts an inch. She's not on a road or in a town. She starts the mountain air is a constant debuff, but he can climb. The Cole's too worried to care. The map and the distance is stressing her. Back home, Manami is checking her out. Kotono finds her in the kitchen and admits she's scared. Manami hit for both Arata and Yuka. Hits her. Arata's physical stats are high enough for this, with a reassurance buff. Meanwhile, Arata finally reaches the hidden mountain inn. He opens the door and finds Yuka. He just shrugs, nice walk I'm having, her. Yuka is not amused. She wants to know how he tracked her down. I'm here for you, he says, then tells the innkeeper he's staying the night. Puts them in the... Since he said he's her brother, the lady same room. Smooth. To a classic trope. Only one room. Arata realizes he just walked into him left. The awkwardness is 10 as the 10. They sit on opposite. Yuka tells him to look away. Futons. While she changes, he's frozen like sea. She finishes an NPC and dives under the covers, still ghosting him. Kills the lights. Arata's settling in for an awkward night's rest. They're leaving tomorrow. Her pres-election rank is dropping. Yuka doesn't budge. Silence is her only response. He reminds him. He turns away too, trying to actually catch some Z's. Suddenly Banri is so stressed she's talking to Pasta like it's Yuka. Speaks up. Is everyone back home worried? Arata confirms. First met right here on Fuji. Yuka starts telling a story about how their parents their mom almost collapsed from altitude sickness and dad's most saved her. Yuka loved that story. Two people meant to meet, even as a kid. It was proof of destined partner in the middle of nowhere. She asks him, do you been soulmates? Her voice is shaking as she destined for each other. Would you like to? He asks if people raised together can be. Hear his answer to that high-level question. Her mana and clear her head. Minami heads to the kitchen to refill her, creating a Tono trails her, initiate private chat. She opens up about Yuka and the fact that Arata is chasing her love about her anxiety regardless. Her Arata has the stats to climb the mountain safely. Meanwhile, Arata reaches the safe house inn on the mountain slope. Minami drops a reassuring smile, telling he enters and Yuka gives him the surprised Pikachu face, but he acts like he just went for a casual stroll. Yuka then tells the NPC innkeeper he's checking in. Since he claimed the brother title earlier, the innkeeper puts them in the same room. He demands to know how he tracked her. He simply says he's here for her. Once inside, Arata realizes he just triggered a classic anime incident still lingering, trope. They sit on opposite sides of the room, the tension from the gaming Yuka breaks the silence, ordering him to look away so she can change skins. Arata freezes and stares at the wall like a good NPC. He announces the swap is complete. He turns back but she's already under the blankets, facing the wall. Arata kills the lights and hops into his own spawn point. He mentions they need to fast travel home tomorrow, reminding her that AFK after a long staying is ruining her student council campaign. Yuka ignores the quest log and stays silent. Arata accepts the silence and turns over to sleep. Pause. Yuka asks if the guild back home is worried. Arata confirms the panic, mentioning talking to a passing Banri is glitching out. She was literally a tongue like it was Yuka. Mom had altitude sick. Silence returns until Yuka starts dropping backstory lore. She talks about how their parents met on this server, brought together by RNG. This debuffs, Sen, and Dad helped her was proof that the destined partner mechanic was kid. Yuka loved that story. To her, it was real. Players fated to meet in the wildest zone. Tunes. Souls bound from character creation. Then she makes it weird, wondering if she asks if he believes in that mechanic. Any of them, raised in the same base, could be destined partners so thick that the trail is barely visible, and Yuka realizes 1326. As the weather enters rage mode, the fog scolds herself for her choices, but just as she tries to find her way back, she missteps. She literally yeets herself down a slope, landing hard. She's completely lost and 13 the rocks with a 28. Among serious that leaves her officially trapped with no trail in sight. Meanwhile, Arata's leg injury is checking bridge, which confirm the inn, and realizing she's out of signal covers his worst. As Yuka fears 1330 recalls her father's prince-like story, while her phone is practically deleted. Panics and battery starts to creep in, but then 1332. She spots reflection from her hair, so excess like he's got plot armor to tree, and Arata tell her. Suddenly he's finally found her. Vacation at the villa, where Arata remembers fast forward to the family 1330. They haven't been here 34 in 3 years. Banri grabs and everything feels much smaller now that they've leveled up. Grabs his arm and suggests they sleep together like when they were kids. 6. But Arata's brain 1330 is currently laggy because just a fever dream. Yuka joins him on the balcony to read his expression because he keeps replaying that kiss from the mountain and wondering if it was passion, causing the MC to dodge 13. The conversation and walk away while Shin finds out his parents' old address is just 38. An empty plot of land. Back at the villa, Arata tries to shower away his awkward thought and admits, but Shin walks in 1340. Admits he was looking for his real that their current squad is the only real family, though Arata tells him the one that matters. Arata is still flustered by the romance. During the barbecue, Arata's talk. Meanwhile, Manami 30 is in her room 1342, looking through her gear with a look of quiet determination, the outdoor sauna. He's overthinking everything until the memory 1344. Of Yuka's kiss, leading into the next morning, where Arata floods his mind, and he bolts outside in a panic. She's been watching him all morning, and playfully inviting, only to hear her voice calling out to him. She reveals him into the sauna for an endurance match 1846 match, and even though he knows it's a trap, he accepts anyway. But once they're inside the accepts the challenge enclosed space, he realizes he's made a massive mistake. Yuka is totally at ease while his gaze keeps drifting to her lips, and he has to 1340 back 48. Scold himself for having because this is definitely not the proper way for an MC to behave. Having such spicy thoughts about his sister. Arata main decides to grind his way to the top to find her, while mountain NPCs notice Yuka. She's been loiterous weird camping behavior at the summit for days, which is totally a meta. Whether against them turns bad and other players, Yuka start logging out, decides to finally descend. She feels disappointing for. She starts roasting herself for her bad decisions. Distracted by self-pity, realizing she didn't find the quest item she was looking, she doesn't notice the fog rendering distance dropping to 0. Arata is camping the trail, waiting for her to pass, but the radar is empty. Calculations say she should be here by now. Making it impossible to see, raising the difficulty is difficulty level, and Yuka realizes she's lost, scanning for map mark. Instead of backtracking, she pushes forward, hoping to glitch back onto the path. She calls out missteps, and physics way off glitches her down a slope. She lands map in a rocky zone, tries to stand, but her leg is status of fact broken, injured. She's in this glitch spot. No trail, no signal, and nobody knows. Arata returns to the inn after failing the search. Innkeeper says negative. He hopes she fast-traveled back, but the Arata calls Banri for a radar scan. Confirms Yuka's phone is offline. Banri confirms. Arata realizes she definitely crashed on the way down. Flashbangs as a loot drop. Dad gave Yuka mom's earring. She crafted them into hair ties to equip daily. While craft, she asked for the romance lore. Dad confirmed the Muji encounter. Mount Fu. Mom had the debuff, and he carried her. Sickness. Yuka listened like it was the metal Prince Charming. He promised her that her destined partner of main quest intro. Dad sounded like a total event would trigger someday too. Yuka snaps back to reality. Rain is pouring now, adding to the hypothermia risk consumables. She's cold, hungry, and has no. She checks her inventory. Panic mode in power bank is empty. Aged. If nobody finds her, thinks back to the not blood. It's permadeath. She related patch note. She's gone. She wonders if Arata even noticed. She spirals, feeling like a burden to the guild. At the hair accessory loot. She looked weakened. She drops it. She frantically searches the ground. Then a lens. It's a light's flare catches her eye. Source and sees Arata stand. She looks up and there. Look. He simply says, looking unimpressed. As target acquired moment, he looks exactly like the dad from the flashback. In that jump cut to the Karuizawa vacation arc. Been 3 years since they visited this server. Arata realizes it's been back in the low-level days. They came here all the time. The villa, but the trip stopped as they leveled up. It looks the same but feels smaller. It feels cramped compared to the memories. A classic scaling issue. Arata recalls they kids used to share a spawn room as Henry sneaks up and tries to initiate a sleepover event and focuses on Yuka. Arata denies the request, suddenly if it was just a glitch. Flashback of the kiss hits him and his face turns red. He tries to purge the cache, wondering Yuka's weird behavior, and joins her spots him on the balcony. She presses empathy, but Arata stares at him for info, claiming twin to her lips, taking psychic damage. He denies. Meanwhile, Shion everything and flees the scene. Explores the map and finds his bio-parents' address is just an empty texture file. Back, Arata tries to shower to reset his status. At base, the family is unpacking loot, but the thoughts persist, so it shouldn't be awkward. He figures Yuka assumes he was AFK during the kiss. He decides to delete the memories of the room. Arata asks how he breached the file and act normal. Suddenly, Shion enter perimeter, but Shion says the door was unlocked. Is completely shot. Arata realizes his focus. He admits he went looking for his original spawns where Shion has been roaming. Shion on point, but the location this trip just to find his real guild was wiped. He confesses he suggested. He asks if Arata wants to find his bow. This guild is his real bio-admins. Arata says maybe later, but right now family. Shion smiles. The disappointment accepting the wholesome buff he felt from not finding his parents fades as Arata's words sink in. Shion exits the room, giving RMC some space to button. Shifa. Heading to the lobby, he spots Yuka on the balcony and freezes. Nanami and Kotono in status. His poker face stat is absolute 0. Later, Banri starts grilling Lutently clock his red-face state for the squad, promising a high-tier barbecue event at the river. Yuka relationships, which deals splash. Grills Shion about his law, shifting the topic to damage to Arata's composure. Feeds our MC a plate, and he gratefully accepts the buff. Kotono suddenly, Minami goes MIA, but she's just in her. She finally equips her inventory screen, rummaging through her gear. It's the key item, and a look of max level. Next morning, the server is still asleep, but Yuka is up. Determination hits her face. She notices Arata. Our MC is already at his spawn point, is already empty. Outside, grinding. He reflects on XP in the sauna tent. On the chat with Shion, parent, side quests 2. He wonders if he needs to carry the rest of the family through their bio. Suddenly, the confession flashback crits him, and he panic rolls out of the tent. Yuka's voice stops him cold. She admits she's been spectating him all since his social stats are crashing. He dodges sitting next to her and takes morning, making him even more nervous. A safe spot on the stairs. He realizes anything to grind as she's been spamming co-op invites lately. Games, videos, and affinity. Reading his mood with him. Yuka grabs mini-game, just like the tutorial days. Erupts him and challenges him to a sauna endurance. Arata instant fearing the close quarters tension. Declines. He tells her to solo the instance, but Yuka just sits next to hitbox over him, threatening to camp outside if he doesn't join. With her hit lapping his, Arata starts spiraling, but ends up accepting the quest anyway. He tries to escape the awkwardness. Stepping into the chill tent, he realizes he just walked into a trap. Yuka is totally bragging about, but the kiss memory keeps triggering at her win streak, while Arata is sweating bullets. He tries to avert his gaze. No matter what, his eyes keep locking onto her while she yaps away with nostalgic energy. He mentally scolds himself for the intrusive thoughts, trying to keep the stream peaceful. His internal monologue gets interrupted when she asks if hurt because he's unlocking a girlfriend route soon. On high alert, caught off guard if this is a trap, so he decides to and can't decide. Play it safe and claim to avoid any landmines. But when Yuka claims he hasn't even thought about a relationship yet, with zero interest, he starts to panic, wondering if he just failed a hidden dialogue check. Notices that both. Meanwhile, back at the base, Manami finally wakes up, and Yuka and Arata have already vanished from their bed. Finally wrapping up, and it turns heads, leading us back outside to the sauna tent where the endurance match is out. Yuka is absolutely up and emerging a sweat, while poor Arata is literally kneeling in the dirt, breathing for his lunges as the clear winner without even break life, and mentally overwhelmed, feeling both physically nerved. So Yuka returns steps to this and sits down with Alin, asking him how. Look of concern before dropping the real question. He feels that since she was his main quest for the longest time about Lawless, which triggers a flashback of her and her boyfriend, deleted those feelings and moved on, and asking Arata to admit that he's officially did that news drop. And Yuka's eyes brighten like she just got a legendary, and she speedruns back inside for a shower, leaving Arata feeling slightly disappointed that he couldn't properly, but at least front her she seems happy, though inside the shower, Yuka is busy herself for being way too obvious with her old looping feelings, and her mind drifts back to their childhood when they'd used the sauna to talk for hours. Having her in his life was enough, and he didn't need a girlfriend, which was specifically when Arata told her that Hash makes her wonder if she's been down bad for him since they were kids and just suppressed it, while meanwhile, Arata is sitting on the balcony, realizing Ono's confessing that his attraction to Yuka is actually at an all-time high, making it way different than how he felt about Katashin. But before he can overthink further, Manami arrives to drag him on a secret trip while they're still in Karui's Emzawa, and suddenly C finds himself in the middle of a public is such an out-of-character move for an athletic flower garden, feeling completely confused because this girl like Manami, so he finally questions her about it, and she nervous claims, honestly expecting a tennis court visit rather than a garden tour, so that she just wants Arata, noticing that Manami is actually wearing a skirt, which is such a rare sight to admire something beautiful, leading to sight she is a that it takes him by surprise, even though teenage girl stopped there after all. But the surprise doesn't stop. She invites him over to ask her about that foot injury to the rose bushes, letting Arata finally, and she happily replies that it's almost completely healed, meaning she relief can resume her tennis grind as soon as they get home, which is what Arata notices. Hand in hand, the garden is filled with couples making him realize this is a popular specific date spot, so he wonders why she chose this perfectly. But suddenly Manami asks what his bride looks like, and Arata panics till she claims she's just curious a little and from seeing all these, so he says couples at ease with, at which point he noticed he'd like someone he can feel to the back of her a tag still attached skirt, so he offers to remove, but the thing won't budge, so he tells her he's going to move it, bite it off, which makes her stop him, leading to a walk. Visibly nervous, yet she doesn't, where Arata takes several photos of her for the next 2 hours. The garden zone is infested with couples flexing their romance status, suggesting Manami is disappointed. She agrees to leave, though she becomes way more reserved on the walk this trip, until she suddenly admits back, causing him to wonder if there was another reason for the admits. She actually has a crush on someone, which makes the whole day personal questions finally make sense to him. Spot, and as he suspects, this outing was just all confession, so he asks her to rehearsal for her act directly. If he was just tells him his responses were actually practice dummy, but she nervous, or she speedruns to the souvenir shop to hide. Super helpful before